What is up, everyone? It is Alan Lee, your proud patriot, here on the Patriot Perspective. In just a moment, we're going to be talking with Elizabeth, also known as Liz from Liz Live. She is a therapist, and we're going to dive into the different things that have been happening with our mind state as a country over the last 2 years, and just kind of break down exactly what's been going on and what people have been going through, and maybe get some answers on how to deal with it. So yeah, stay tuned. All of that.
News, current events, politics, and everything in between. This is your number one source for finding out the truth. Never censored, never apologetic, and always patriotic. You're tuned in to the Patriot Perspective with the people's proud patriot, Alan Lee.
What is up? It is Alan Lee, your proud patriot. I'm not sure if you missed our last show, but go ahead and check out the replay of that. We just had that show a few minutes ago. But while you're here, and if you are getting value out of any of this news and these videos, go ahead and smash the like button, click subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so that you don't miss anything. And then after all the shows are done and you're kicking back and relaxing for the weekend, head over to thepatriotperspective.com, where you can pick up some hats, some shirts, and also you can become a Patriot partner and help support our channel monthly to make sure that we can get the news and the truth out to you guys. So give me one moment. We're going to be bringing Elizabeth here, and we will be right back. All right. Apologize for that. We had some technical difficulties. But without further ado, going to bring in Liz, and thanks for joining us. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I am so excited to be here, and I just want to apologize to your audience that I think it was my fault. You did everything right, and for some reason we were having a lot of trouble getting it together. So
can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly. I hope you can hear me.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yes.
I can't hear you.
Oh no.
So maybe check and make sure that you have the proper microphone set for that. Oh, my guest says that they can hear you. Let me see if something's going on my side where I can't hear you. Oh, there you are. That was on my side. So that part was my fault then.
Hey, so we're both home, but the good news is that we're here and everyone's home from work now and they're relaxing. This is maybe even a better time to get a good conversation going.
Yes. So I know you were tuned in with our last guest on here. What maybe do you have any comments about that before we dive into anything else?
Well, you know what? I have to be honest. I haven't followed that case. I was really following it when it actually happened, and I haven't been following it, and so I don't want to misspeak. But I mean, make no mistake that we are a country that is in psychological warfare. I mean, that's
right.
The bottom line. So it's been really fascinating as a therapist and someone who loves psychology to just sort of watch and observe what's been going on in the country. Hard to believe in the last 2 whole years, and just the craziness of the situation and sort of the, manipulation and the psychological warfare that has been launched in the country. It's and I know that the Rittenhouse case is just a part of the bigger picture. So I think we all feel like we're living in the Twilight Zone a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's been a hard time for families. It's been a hard time for children in the country. And it's just everything that's going on from COVID, the elections, the political divides, everything that's happened has really impacted all of us in different ways, psychologically, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's funny because just the other day, one of my coworkers was he's at work. He seems like he's super outgoing, but the things that he tells me is that he's kind of introverted and stays in most of the time. Not really stays in, but he's kind of keeps to himself a lot of the times. And so what you would think is people who are like that didn't really have much struggle through all of the lockdowns and the mandates and things like that. But he said that he's actually highly suffering from all of that. And from the way he explained it, it was that people who are introverted, that doesn't always mean that they're just happy being introverted. Some of them have struggles with that. And so when they have a struggle internally dealing with not being good around people and things like that, and then they're cut off from people against their will, it does something else to them. And even though he's been working the whole time, we work in an essential workers field, so he hasn't necessarily been stuck at home without a job and anything like that. He's still been out doing his work 5 days a week, but he's still, to this day, when as we know, things have lightened up a bit. He said he's highly suffering still from the trauma of the lockdowns.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are. And, when you are removed from your regular daily stimulation and you are, not allowed to, or told that you're not allowed to interact socially with your loved ones, when you are, told, and you're all being told by the government, not by your own choice, that you have to be separate from the world around you, whether you're introverted or extroverted, it doesn't really matter, because you are being isolated, and we are social creatures and we are meant to be around other people. And then on top of it, we are told to be afraid to be close to other people, and we should be shamed if we want to be close to our families, or we want to gather with friends or family during the last 2 years. We are shamed if we have different views than what I guess the dominant narrative from the left generally is. So yeah, I mean, he's not alone. I deal with clients every day, all around the world, by the way, who are suffering and even feel to some degree that they've lost their ability to socialize, like your friends. I remember when the lockdowns were first lifted in all of the different cities around America. I had clients calling me that they were afraid to get in the car and go to the grocery store because they had been so destimulated and desensitized to being out of their home. And I think it's so unhealthy mentally and unhealthy physically.
Right. And then it's funny because as much as I didn't care about the masks, and really, I can't say I wore them in any situation where I absolutely had to, whether it was traffic court or going to the
Right.
doctor checkup for our baby and things like that, where it's like the baby's not going to be seen, or we have to drop them off and stand outside. So but they definitely knew how I felt about it. But
That they did.
yeah.
Let me love you, Alan. Right.
But it's funny because there's people that I was working with at the time at the job I was with, who I had never seen without a mask before, and then when I stopped back in, and during the brief time when they were allowed to not wear a mask before they had to wear them again, I didn't even recognize them. And you think it's only from here to here, and you think, oh, I know what that person looks like, and I'm like, that's not what I saw at all. And you start to realize that you're being programmed. Um, when
Yeah.
you hear that same person that you worked with every day, that you'd crack jokes with and things like that, when you would hear them talk, and you would picture the type of smile, or that they would smile when they would say these certain things, and then they're not, you're realizing that you don't even know the person you're having a discussion with, and that whole human experience has been taken away from you, and stripped away, and you don't realize it's happening. You can think about the technicality of, it's good to see facial expressions, and you're cutting that out, but you don't realize how much you're missing, and how disconnected you are from people even when you're right next to them.
Oh, I mean, that is so true. I couldn't agree more with you. And, if you, I think we all probably have people that we have maybe met during the last couple of years who always wear a mask. And I've had this happen to me a couple times. And when they take it off, it's like, I don't even know who they are. I don't recognize people half the time walking around. And, you know, our facial expressions, our mouth, our nose, you know, the movements that we make with our facial muscles convey a message. I mean, we're constantly communicating. So when we're covering that up, and I know we're going to get into the effects on children in just a moment, but yeah, when you're covering up that, it is a bizarre experience. And, you know, there's all kinds of different theories about it, but my theory on masking largely is, again, it's a psychological weapon, because when COVID first came out, we really didn't understand it. We didn't know what it was. Everybody panicked. And, you know, the government and the powers that be, and I guess to some degree, understandably so, they want to keep people calm. They want people to relax. But they're working against the media, who's freaking everybody out with death tickers and swooshes and sirens. And so, you know, you have this, you know, imbalance of, okay, how do we keep everybody calm and figure this out? And then the media making everybody crazy. So, I know. We can start having everybody wear a face mask. We can tell them that it's going to protect them, that it's going to work. We can mandate it. And then we can use that to calm people down psychologically. And I really believe that that's, you know, I mean, I've tried to find good literature on masking. I tried last night for like an hour. It just doesn't exist.
Well,
so
no.
we have some limited studies that have talked about its uses during surgery from surgeons, and that, you know, to keep their droplets from going and infecting open wounds. But there's been no really significant long-term studies of any kind that are significant enough to tell us that they really work. So,
no. And especially when you consider that you're in a sterile environment, and you have completely open wounds, and we're dealing with a virus, something that's airborne.
Correct.
So when you're in surgery, and if you're dealing with something that's like a virus that's airborne, they're wearing more than a mask on their face, for one, in a surgery room. But if they're just, you know, they're worried about, you know, just making it as safe as possible when you're dealing with cutting a human being open. They're not in there wearing a t-shirt or a bandana over their face that they pulled off their truck floor.
That's right.
And so, you know, and then when people started to realize this doesn't make sense. Like, if I'm not near someone and I'm not coughing and I'm not even speaking sometimes when I go out, because I mean, let's be real, when I go out to Walmart, the last thing I want to do is talk to somebody. And trust me, I try to stay 6 feet away from everybody in Walmart at all times. Okay. But the thing is, you know, when people started to realize it's not worth the trade-off from, you know, what could happen to them in the 0.01%, then they had to turn it into villainizing people. Then now it's not about protecting yourself. Now you don't protect yourself, you protect someone else, and then you don't care about them if you don't do it. And people started to see through that. And then it was get the vaccine. And we're going to change the definition of what a vaccine is on the CDC website so that this gene therapy can actually fall into that. And then people started to see, well, that doesn't work, because then I can still get it, but I might not die you might not die if you had it before. Well, I'm getting it to protect my loved ones, but you can still carry it. So if you can still carry it, then really you're just kind of getting it for yourself. And they need to stop trying to say that other people now are the enemy, the way that Biden and Psaki is trying to say it. And what's crazy is some of my friends who, you know, I mean, they're kind of on the right path anyway. But what hasn't really broke through as each step has broken through with people waking up is now with the job mandates. So if you get the vaccine, you can work. If you don't get the vaccine, you have to get tested every week. But you don't have to get tested every week if you have the vaccine, even though you can still carry it. So I mean, if anything,
absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Right. If anything was going to make sense, then everybody should just always get tested, whether you're vaccinated or not. I mean, we just had 3 or 4 days ago, there was a gentleman who was on a plane who was fully vaccinated and died in a 3-hour flight before the plane landed, and he died of COVID, and he was COVID positive. Then they had to quarantine the people who were sitting near him on the plane and all those things. So, but other people who flew who weren't vaccinated, they had to come and show a negative test. Well, clearly, if he would have shown a negative test, then, or if he would have had to show a test, then he wouldn't have been in that situation and possibly could have been saved at the hospital. But instead, they said, "Oh, you got vaccinated, you're good to go," and yet he died and could have infected other people, while other people had to show that they had a negative test. So these things just aren't adding up, and that's the biggest problem. Is that if things added up, and if they were just like, "You should get it. If you don't get it, here's what could happen to you," I think a lot more people would get it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think people, psychologically, people were really, thrown off their rocker, so to speak, when COVID emerged. And we really have a tendency as human beings in mass, if you're looking at the general pop, or you're looking in mass, in the masses, anxiety is very infectious. So,
Right.
and then it feeds upon more and more and more. So people want an answer. They want a guarantee. They want to know that if I follow the rules of the CDC, or I follow the rules of the government, or I do, what, certain doctors on the TV stations that I like, if I do what they say, then I'm going to be safe and I won't get it. And it's easier psychologically, I think, when you're dealing with so much anxiety that we deal with from regular life anyway, that when you add, the stress of a pandemic into the mix, the levels of anxiety that people were dealing with were so much so that they became somewhat robotic and just said, okay, like, I'll wear the mask and I'll follow the rules, and then everything will work out for me, and then I'll get vaccinated and everything will work out for me. And sadly, what we're finding is that there's really no guarantees of anything. I mean,
Right.
I respect it. I don't want to get it. I did get vaccinated. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the booster or not. I respect people's decisions of freedom, that if they feel that it's the right decision for them, do it. If they
Right.
don't feel it's the right decision, don't do it. No one should be telling you otherwise, and certainly not your government. I have clients who have been basically told that either you get vaccinated or you're going to lose your job. And so when you're living in a bubble, and maybe the things that are going on in the world right now aren't exactly affecting you in a big way, it's easy to sit back and say, well, what's the big deal? Just get the vaccine, or what's the big deal? Why is everyone making such a big deal about it? But when it affects you and your livelihood and your ability to support and provide for your family, it's a big deal. And so I think psychologically, again, what's happening in the country is chaos. It's just
Right.
chaos.
I mean,
And
and
it's sad. It's
yeah,
sad.
and it's anybody's choice. I don't do vaccines personally, but I don't hold it against anybody who does.
No.
But when it is something that's more than, oh, just get it, because I like, yeah, you have some people who are just anti-government. There's some people who are just anti-vaccine, more so than just being like, oh, I don't want it for myself. Yeah, there's always those people. There's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
But with all of the stats coming out about the vaccine actually harming people and killing people and those things, and it's more you have to actually consider. It's not something that you can just do because you want your job and you just do it because the government says to do it. It's one of those things that really should be thought about.
That's
And if
right.
if you're a faith-based person, you pray about it. If you're not, then you go to your doctor about it, but not somebody on TV just saying you need to do it.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I could talk about this for 3 hours, but it's amazing because part of the work that I do in therapy with people is I try to help people find a place where they have a really well-developed sense of self. And when you have a well-developed sense of self, meaning, you know who you are, you know what you stand for, but you're confident enough to keep an open mind, not get overly reactive, try to do your own research, be informed, and make a decision that's best for you in your particular life and your particular family. I try to counsel people to do that with everything in life. And what we've seen in the last 2 years is that fear is just crippled people. And I was out with a couple colleagues about a month ago, and we're all it was like 2 psychiatrists and myself and another therapist, and there's consideration in my field now of adding a specific anxiety disorder attributed to COVID in the upcoming DSM, that some people have become so fearful that that they're developing like agoraphobia and social anxieties, the way you opened up the whole interview. And it's really in depression, isolation, people being, kept away from their families. And you ask yourself, for what?
Right.
At the end of the day,
what's the trade-off?
Ways that, you can be responsible. When I go through it, and I'm not a medical doctor, but when I go through it logically, I try to go through this logically. The only thing that makes sense to me, really makes sense to me, that has ever been offered is social distancing, in the sense that, well, yeah, if you're far away from people,
right,
you're pretty good.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry too much. But again, it's like when you're a physician and you're looking at the patient and you're saying, okay, I can give you this medication, but if I give you this medication, there's going to be side effects, and you might have dizziness and vomiting, but your presenting symptom of pain or whatever is going to be gone. So let's discuss what's the best thing for you. And somehow that logic has been lost in this country over the fear. And I blame the media a lot for it, but I also blame us, because we've allowed our psyches and we've allowed ourselves to fall into that. Not all of us have, but many people have allowed themselves to fall into that trap. And sometimes when people come at me, well, I'm so afraid and I can't go anywhere. And I'm like, well, when's the last time you actually went to the CDC and actually looked at statistics?
Right. Because
they don't.
As much as I dislike the CDC as you have a private corporation that's just a trusted corporation that's telling everybody what to do. But if you actually go and read what they put, it's usually the opposite of the media.
Exactly. And so I tell people, take an hour out of your day. This is what people who come into my office that are flipped out. I'm still not going out to eat. I haven't seen my family. I haven't, I say, well, you know what? And before we react, when's the last time you actually took an hour out of your day to actually do some research and really look into the statistics and the numbers, and take out a calculator and go through it, and then come back to me and let's talk about it? Because you're living your life in fear, really, for no reason. So that's, I'm not a lover of the CDC, and a lot of stuff they put out there is crap. But if you're looking at the hard numbers,
yeah,
and the collected data, it is literally not at all what's being reported in the media. And last year, when I did a show on masking, and I really spent like 3 hours. I can't find anything. I can't find one study that's current. I found a study from like maybe 8 or 9 years ago, maybe 10, that was done. That was a pretty extensive study that looked at the efficacy of masking in the general public for anything, for any kind of virus, for any kind of common cold.
Right. And
it was clearly determined that masking was not considered efficacious in the general public.
Right.
So, so we're creating a lot of fear just because everyone else is afraid. And we start thinking in our brains, oh my God, what if I got it? What if I spread it to my mom? It's a death trap. And we're forgetting to live.
Yeah.
And it's it's sad. It's a sad situation.
We have a comment on our YouTube page. I've heard that there is now a syndrome where people have become so accustomed to wearing a mask that they're almost afraid not to, or feel undressed, etc. I remember when I went to get new insurance, insurance on my new vehicle, that the guy there, the small little insurance office, and I didn't have a mask on, and he offered me one, and I said, no, I'm fine. And we were the only ones in there, so he got a chance to not have to wear his. And he said, yeah, he said, sometimes, he said, I feel naked without it. He said, and then when I realized that, he said, I wonder what happened to me.
Wow. That's profound. And yeah, your guest is, right on. It's sort of like anything else in life. If you think about, these glasses, okay, I have terrible vision. And so I have to wear glasses, and I wear them all the time. And if I don't have them on, I feel kind of funny because I know that I'm just used to wearing them all the time.
Right.
And I know they help me see. So it's weird for me to not have them on. If you start doing anything that's repetitious, and you literally are creating some neural pathways in your brain that are, reaffirming and reinforcing that I am safe when I wear this mask. You hear it on the news. You're safe if you wear a mask. People, you're safe. And you wear it all the time. And you now have become psychologically dependent on the belief system, not the reality per se, but you've become dependent on the belief system that, okay, this is going to keep me safe. I'm used to this. And it becomes a habit. And then when you first start walking around without it, it's like scary,
Yeah.
I mean, so she's right. I don't know if there's a name for it, but I would say that, yeah, I've heard about it. I've seen it. Yes.
So before, and I have a question, but before I ask you this question, there's a female artist by the name of Caitlin Curtis. She does some stuff with Struggle Jennings that are real like patriotic and real faith-based songs. She's actually going to be in town on the 9th, and I have my tickets. I'm really excited to go there.
Okay.
But I'm going to show you just this little clip of her video, and then I'll ask you a question right after that.
Okay.
Can someone call me? Why do I feel so lonely? Is anyone out there? I feel kinda empty. No one is talking. No, no. Maybe I need therapy, 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 therapy. Can someone help? Someone call me? Why do I feel so lonely? Is anyone out there? I feel kinda empty. No one is talking. No, no. Maybe I need therapy, 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 therapy. Can someone help me? I've been so lost in my feelings. I just ran out of weight. Here comes the anxiety. I'm losing my mind. Yeah, yeah. Maybe I need therapy, 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 therapy.
So.
Okay.
So that was actually released by her right in the midst of all of the lockdowns. And my question is, and you're a therapist, so it's not to discredit what therapists can do.
Yeah.
But in the state that we're in, can therapy help? I know it can help in a general sense, but can it, if the mandates and the lockdowns and all this continues, can therapy really dig anybody out of the hole, or do we need something along with therapy to cope with it? But what do we do?
Such a good question. Such a great question. I mean, I think therapy, if you're going to a competent therapist, can definitely be helpful. I mean, it can help you cope. It can perhaps, challenge you to get out of your fears. It can do a lot of wonderful, magical things for people. But that being said, I don't think it's the only answer. I think that I actually do believe, and it's funny because I happen to be Jewish, but I always say to my friends, like, people need to go to church, we need, and that church could be a temple, it could be a wherever you want to go to pray. To me, it's all beautiful, but I think we need to like dial back here for a second and think about, ethics and morals and the meaning of life, and we were not sent here to this earth to live in fear. This is not the way we're supposed to live. We're not supposed to be separate from other people. Are we supposed to be, responsible and, protective of human life and all those things? Of course. But we can't stop living. We can't.
Right.
And the beautiful young lady who was singing in the video, she looks like a lot of my clients. She's talking like a lot of my younger clients. That's exactly how they feel. So I wish that I could say that therapists were enough to save the world. I mean, that would be wonderful. But I think we need to definitely reach into some sort of spiritual connection and some sort of faith in order to help us through this time and reprogram ourselves about what it is we're really doing here.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it kind of goes. I mean, everybody has depression for different reasons, and so there's
Yes.
no cookie cutter blueprint to it. But given the entirety of the situation, and I mean, I don't know if you've come across any situations, but what do you think as a therapist that people who not only do they not want to do the mass or they don't want to be told what to do, but they're sitting there watching freedoms try to be stripped away, because let's be honest, when people say that their freedom is being taken away from you, your freedom cannot be taken away from you. You may go through things for your freedom, whether it's hardships or even death, but no one can take what God has given you. So so I don't want to say that freedoms are being taken away from someone, but they're watching people try to do so, and they're watching greatness fall and crumble, and that can add a whole nother aspect to it of their depression, where if it's a mask or a vaccine mandate, well, tomorrow the powers could say, all right, no more masks, no more vaccines. That's a singular issue that can be resolved one way or another. But when you're watching the country turn a certain way, and when you're watching things that are much deeper happening, where it's not something you can just fix today. If I don't want to wear a mask, I can go outside and not wear a mask, and I've kind of fixed that problem. But I can't fix that. I can't fix the problem of socialists and communists wanting to run the country. I can't personally go out and just make that change tomorrow, is what I'm saying. I know that there's things I can do to try to fix it, but it's not something that's quick and easy fix that I can just say, oh, today is one way, tomorrow is another. So that can lead to a whole another state of mind where it's a sense of hopelessness, kind of like in that song.
Yeah.
So I mean, the suicide rates, I mean, with suicide being the 10th leading cause of death in America in the last 2 years, really needs to open our eyes to what this is doing to us. I mean, what are you trading off for a possible less than 0.01% of dying, and now you're living even less than you would if people are living less now than those who have terminal illness.
That's correct.
Who have a week to live, who have a month to live. They're doing, before the lockdowns, they were doing more with their lives than people who have no reason to even think that they're in harm's way.
That's correct.
So,
that is correct. I mean, again, when the first thing that I thought of when you asked me to do this interview was it's psychological warfare.
Right.
And you do sort of have to be, and it's probably some spiritual warfare as well.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that we are learning, or if we haven't, we're going to learn from this experience what it really feels like to lose our freedoms, and like you said, no one can actually take it away, but I mean, they can make life really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For you. And the more that we sit back and just say, yeah, go ahead, the more we're giving away. I had actually an interesting event. I was flying from Pittsburgh to Fort Lauderdale like a few weeks ago, and like you have to wear the mask on the airplane.
Right.
You're going to jail. I mean, forget it. And so we landed, and we weren't allowed to get off the plane. And I thought, what's going on here? So long story short, I see this young couple with 2 children, a boy that was probably about 10 or 11. He had a mask on. The mother and father had a mask on. And then there was a toddler who I would have, I would guess was maybe a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And they embarrassed this family because the little toddler would not keep his mask on. So they sent TSA agents onto the airplane. And I'm sitting there watching this whole thing.
Wow.
And they escort this family off, and we had to sit and wait. And then finally they let us get up, and I was infuriated. So I'm walking down, the walkway, and I see these agents, like kind of, in my view, were sort of like dominating this poor couple. It was just like, with 2 kids. And I heard the mother say, like, what is it that you expect me to do?
Yeah.
Would you like me to slam my child down and force him with my own hand to wear a mask on a 2-hour flight? Or what would you recommend? And it was interesting, because if I had seen that a couple of years ago, just knowing me, I would have turned around and said something to the Asians. But I actually felt scared. I actually felt like, oh my God, if I speak up, I'm going to get arrested. And it was a really defining moment for me, and I thought, this is scary times we're living in. This is like, to live in the United States and be concerned about speaking up for your fellow man, or speaking up against injustice, if it's not according to, the dominant story that, the government wants you to believe, that you could be arrested, or you could be, fined. Like, what is going on? And so I don't know the answer, Alan. I think that what you do is amazing. I think that it's so important that people who do have the courage and do have a platform to speak, do speak, and, try to come together. And I think that we as a country have to stop separating ourselves from each other, and stop, right, shaming people for having different beliefs than us, or, not wanting to be friends with people because they have different viewpoints, or, telling your children to stay away from other kids that don't have masks, or don't go around that family because they don't wear a mask, or don't go because they do. We should be ashamed of ourselves in a lot of ways, for some of that, and like I said, I think we need to get back to the basics. I think, people need to go back to their religious institutions, and or just do it in your house, whatever, and like, remember what a gift and a blessing life is, and how freedom is such a blessing, not to be taken for granted, and to always encourage others to live free, because I think that's what we're meant to do.
And I think a big wake up call for all the younger millennials who don't understand really what socialism and communism is. Maybe they just need to lose all electronic devices and social media for a week, to be controlled by the government, like in China, where they can't even search something without permission, and half the websites are blocked, and then if you do look up the wrong thing, they literally do show up at your door, and no one hears from you again. So maybe that needs to happen for a week, and then they'd all wake up and say, oh, that's what no freedom looks like.
Yeah, that might help. That would wake some people up really quick. And I think too, like, young people, they're trying to find themselves in the world, and what they're focusing on in your, early 20s, and they're even the early 30s a little bit, you haven't really been on your own and had to pay your taxes and, like, work and understand the meaning of all of that adult stuff. And so you might be focusing on, what's big on campus, or, what's important in your own, development, human development, which is a beautiful thing. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the whole world's concerns. It's kind of narcissistic. Like, okay,
Right.
if you want to figure yourself out or this way or the other, awesome. I love everybody. Do it. But we're thinking, and we need to be thinking in terms of the whole and what is best for the country at large. And this is a wonderful country, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But we have a lot of problems, and it's been a really weird couple of years. But I hope that, you know, in some way we can all come together in some way as a result of all of this chaos.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know how much time you have tonight.
I got time.
Okay. So
I got time. You're my only date tonight.
all right. So, I want to play another quick video and then get some comments on that, and then we can dive into some of the things going on with the schools and all of that too.
Okay.
So, let's see.
It's just a mask.
It's just 6 feet.
Just 3 weeks.
It's just non-essential businesses.
It's just non-essential workers.
Just gyms, salons, and sporting activities.
Just until we work it out.
It's just a bar.
Just a restaurant.
Just adults. It's just 6 feet.
Just 3 weeks.
It's just non-essential businesses.
It's just non-essential workers.
Just gyms, salons, and sporting activities.
Just until we work it out.
It's just a bar.
Just a restaurant.
Just adult care facilities.
It's just schools.
Just to save your grandmother.
It's just until the cases go down. Just to flatten the curve.
Just to keep others from living in fear.
It's just a few more weeks.
Just to keep from overwhelming medical services.
Just places of worship.
It's just singing.
It's just missing the birth of your child.
Just a canceled birthday party. It's just a wedding.
It's just a funeral.
Just to travel.
It's just 3 months of lockdown.
It's just some stickers on the floor.
Just a one-way system.
It's just temporary plastic barriers.
It's just until we get the vaccine.
It's just an app.
Just for tracking.
It's just to let others know they're safe when you're near.
Just to let others know with who you've been in contact.
Just in some areas.
It's just a government guideline.
Just for your own good.
It's just to protect others.
It's just fact-checking, not censorship.
Just a government mandate.
Just the law now.
Just a scientific fact.
It's just these scientists and doctors. Not those.
Just because of the second wave.
It's just to keep your child safe.
It's just another lockdown.
It's just 4 more weeks.
Just cancel Christmas and New Year's.
It's just school. They can do it from home.
Just to swab up your nose.
It's just so you can keep your job.
It's just for medical information.
Just a jab.
Just a car to store your medical information.
It's just so you can travel.
It's just for your passport.
It's just so you can send your kids to school.
It's just a third jab.
It's just so you can go to a concert.
Just so you can get a driver's license. Just so you can vote.
Just a facility to keep others safe from you.
It's just because of the third variant.
It's just a few more years.
Just for those people.
Just better to keep it this way.
Just because we said so.
It's just your freedom.
It's not just.
It's
Unjust.
Start.
Resisting.
Now.
They.
Will.
never.
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 Ever.
Stop.
Love that. I lost your audio for a sec. I can't hear you, Alan.
There we go.
There we go.
So,
Okay. That was awesome.
yeah, that I came across it on TikTok, and I thought that was
Powerful.
yeah. So with so can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So with everything that's been going on, and then they started to focus their attention on the schools and the children. First with the mask mandates back in school, and now with the vaccine mandates they're trying to push. What are your thoughts on that? You know, not just, well, partially as just a human being, and then also from a therapist standpoint.
Well, you know, as a human being, again, I just don't agree with taking people's right to choose those things away. I just don't support it. I want all the children to be healthy. I want everyone to be safe. I don't want to get COVID. I don't want anyone that I love or even that I don't know to be sick. But again, just like that piece you just, showed, it was brilliant because it's like, where does it stop? So if you
Right.
keep rationalizing all of these, one of my clients had actually a great analogy. She said, it's like you have a chain around your neck and it's got, 6 feet behind you. And each day a link is being taken out. And eventually you're going to be choked.
Oh,
right?
that's good.
And yeah, I can't take credit for that, but she came up with that. I said, that's a good way of saying it. And so, because I think previously in this country, we sort of had the politics of affluence, meaning, we didn't have to worry. We didn't have to worry about getting involved because we didn't think anything was going on, or we didn't see that anything major was going on. All of a sudden, you throw Donald Trump into the mix and pizzow. I mean, just everything just went wild, and it was so fascinating from a psychological standpoint to see just how one person, just people's reactions were just, anyway, that's a whole other subject. But as far as children are concerned, so I've seen some really sad things in the past couple of years, and I hate to be I don't want to be a negative deliverer of negative messages or news, but I had quite a number of little children, and I'm talking 6 and under, contemplating not being alive or telling mommy and daddy, they don't want to be alive, and they were sad. And it's very hard a lot of times for little children to really express what it is that's making them so sad. So my clients would bring them in, and, I had some little tricks and trying to talk with them and understand what they're going through. And a lot of times these kids wanted to not be alive because they couldn't see grandma who watched them every day after school, or they couldn't see Aunt Jane who they went to her house for dinner every Sunday night, and they missed being around the family. And that is so meaningful. They couldn't see their friends, social media and, phones and video games taking over more, and separating children and teens more, who they were just totally, first, school's like a joke to every teen I've ever spoken to. It's a joke, and so the education is not there. And now you put a mask on kids, which I have a couple issues with. Again, if you want your child to wear a mask, great. I respect it. That's your choice.
Right.
But when you're mandating it, it's like, well, masks sort of represent traditionally like an archetype of sickness, of scariness, like Halloween, dark things. So a lot of children are very scared to go out and see all the people with masks or go to school wearing masks. It seems like, they're getting a little less anxious about it, but they have trouble breathing.
Yeah.
We don't know. And I spent a couple hours looking for any studies on this, and there is none. But what are the long-term effects of wearing a mask every single day for years upon years? And, the only argument to that is, well, surgeons have been wearing masks for, doing surgery for 10 hours. Yeah, but that's 10 hours and then it's off.
Right.
And it might not be another 10 hours for another, week or two or whatever. The point is that we don't know. So, again, it's more fear. It's more separateness. It's more, anxiety provoking. It's, if the phones and the video games and the computers haven't done a good enough job of, kind of changing, real social human interaction enough already, now we're going to put, masks on everybody and call this normal and safe. And, what are the where are we going, guys, with this?
Right.
I start to think can you imagine, Alan, I think I'm a little bit older than you, but can you imagine wearing, looking back to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, in a mask?
I mean, yeah, the people, some people out there. But I mean, yeah, where is it going? I mean, we went real fast, real far. We went from, we should probably wear a mask to show me your papers.
Yeah.
And it's funny because less than 3 months ago when we made comments about show me your papers, people were still laughing at us.
Right. That's right.
And now they're literally saying, show me your papers. I mean, and it's almost too tragic to say told you, but I still say told you so.
And, you know, but you're right. And so, you know, the point you're making is important. And, you know, like I try to, you know, help people cope with whatever, you know, is going on in their lives. And I've never before 2 years ago really had to discuss politics in therapy, or even had to, you know, deal with it as such a big problem between couples. I mean, a lot of couples that I work with are fighting over COVID, you know, well, you know, the wife believes in masking, the husband doesn't. I mean, it's, you can't even imagine the new issues that have come up because of this. And yeah, I mean, where is this all leading? You know, of course, I'm always thinking relationship wise, because relationships are so important in life. And, you know, what does this mean about the family? What does this mean about being neighbors? What does this mean about, you know, dating? What does this mean for, you know, socialization for children in the future? And I think it's going to be a huge problem.
I mean, so about, you know, the divorce rate in America is already horrible.
Like 51% about.
Yeah. Did you see in your line of work, did you see things? Because it could go either way. People being home more could fix things, or it could make it worse.
That's right.
So what, you know, what in your experience or your circles did you see all of the lockdowns and everything cause?
I saw a lot of both.
Yeah.
I saw some couples that, you know, you know, maybe in my circle of friends that I just was never sure, you know, about. And I saw them all of a sudden just becoming so close and connected because they were home together all the time, and it worked out well for them.
Yeah.
And then, oh, I certainly saw the opposite as well. And I saw the political issues that were dividing the nation also dividing the couple. Right. And, but my feeling about that sort of was, you know, a strong couple with a strong foundation can get through this stuff with some respect. But when there's not a good foundation in the couple to begin with, and you throw something like this, it's just going to exaggerate it and make it come to a, you know, a bad point a lot faster.
And I mean, and the hypocrisy always is so horrible on the left anyway. But they want to send social workers to every police call, but then we go through something like this, and it's, you know, we need to get our head out of our asses and just take the vaccine and just stop being ignorant to everyone. Like, well, what about the mind state of these people going through this? You know, maybe whether they disagree, whether it's nefarious, which I'm sure it is, but whether they disagree for whatever reason, these people have reasons for disliking things, standing up against it, the things that they're going through, the things they're going through with their children. And nobody cares about a social worker with them. But if some guy's got a knife to his girlfriend's neck, oh, let's send a therapist to him.
We do not belong there.
He's like, don't send me.
Domestic calls are like the most dangerous calls, you know?
Yeah.
Like, of all so yeah, I mean, like when I heard that one, I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, you know, like, well, I'm not a social worker, but same line of same field, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, what are you even talking? Like, what? You know, like it's just, it's so illogical. It's so like, it's like a fantasy or something, like it's some kind of fantasy, because, you know, we want to, like, you know, we want to see the world through rainbows and ice cream, and let's send therapists to, you know, domestic violence calls. That let it listen. I've been stuck in some really bad couples fights in my office. No, thank you.
Right.
I mean, no, thank you. But it's a fantasy. Like, unfortunately, people, if you don't have rules and you don't have, you know, order, and you don't have boundaries, and you don't have discipline, you will have chaos. It's just that simple.
It's the Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you can't, you know, nobody with a brain can really argue that. So these bizarre, you know, these bizarre ideas that come out of the progressive left or whatever, you know, are like, I sit and I just laugh sometimes. Like when I hear, AOC, like whenever I hear her talk, I mean, first of all, she's such a histrionic, which is a personality disorder that, you know, I see it. And then I just laugh and I'm like, how does anyone take her seriously? I just don't get it. I don't get it. And I just think it's people that live in a fantasy world, and it's nice to live there. But, you know, like we've talked about, imagine, you know, taking police departments away from, you know, all the upper echelon of politics, or all the upper echelon of Hollywood, and, you know, see how they like it.
Yeah, I mean, and well, speaking of AOC, I mean, she obviously lives in a fantasy world where you're going to want to tax the rich while doing things and wearing things that only the rich can do, like her dress that she wore to the $30,000, I believe, event.
Oh my God. What a hip! Oh God.
Yeah. And the dress she wore there, she spray painted "Tax the Rich."
That's so funny.
and it's like, and I mean, everybody saw the irony in it. And I guess in her mind, all she could think was, I'm going to wear something that's a statement about the rich, and people will see it, not realizing that what you're doing, only the rich can do. What you're wearing, only the rich can afford. And it just didn't even cross their mind, because in the fairy tale land, the frog turns into the prince. In the real world, you're kissing a frog.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't even, like, when I hear her, she just sounds like such a child to me. That literally speaks, you know, I mean, she's got her, like, some determination in her, which is, you know, I could give her that. But like that she actually has a following, and, you know, I must be like too old to understand it, you know, but I what do people see in she's just an actress who's looking for attention. That's, you know, and she found her little niche, and, you know, but people, like, you know, they believe they're not, they can't see through all of the theatrics, and, you know, and that's a lot of what the world is facing right now. Like, we are being, it's, again, psychological warfare, theatrics everywhere, and theatrics sell, and, you know, but in the meantime, while that's going on, the rest of us who can be non-reactive and be logical and can think clearly, we need to continue to, in our families, in our children, in our professions, you know, I think just all we can do is try to live by some principles, and just try to get along the best that we can.
I mean, there's the human experience that people are forgetting about. Things have become so polarized, and all of the issues are important, and most of the issues going on are a right or a wrong side. But you can still be a human, a decent human to someone who's on the other side. And that's whether or not you're trying to convince them to change their mind or whatever. But I mean, just in your day-to-day life, the media it wants you to just hate each other while they're trying to tell you not to hate each other.
And it's working.
Yeah, and that's what's blowing my mind. So, you know, hopefully people just take a step back, take a deep breath, turn off all the news except for me and Liz.
That's right. Keep the Patriot perspective on all the time.
Yeah. And go outside for a week straight, and then realize the world hasn't ended yet.
That's right.
And now we can figure out how to fix these problems that are going on with the leaders and so forth. Because if we just keep focusing on the smoke will never get to put out the flame.
Agreed.
So
agreed. I mean, I really don't know the answer, you know. I mean, I really don't, but I wish I did. And I think that if we all put our best foot forward and we don't react to everything constantly, you know, which is, it's the human survival instinct, but we have to become aware of that. Emotions lie a lot. And, you know, if we and if you just step out in life, I mean, I really try to live my life like, basically like COVID isn't there. You know, I try to be smart and, you know, just like, you know, I do a lot of hand sanitization and, you know, that's about it. But I try to be very careful, not to do stupid things or, you know, put myself in a bad situation and be respectful of other people. But we got to live. We have to live. We have to.
We need to get back to when, you know, it's okay to ask a question about a vaccine and it's not okay to tell kids to eat Tide Pods. When those two things flip-flop, then I feel like we're on the right track.
Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're so right. Yeah, freedom. Freedom is the bottom line.
Yeah.
You know, and freedom to speak up, freedom to have different opinions, freedom to be different, but not separate, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we need to make a habit out of this.
Totally.
And
I love talking to you. It's great. And I'm sure your audience loves Liz. You're such an intelligent person. And I'm sure we need more people like you doing it, you know? And
well, thank you.
And I would love to be, you know, around anytime. And I haven't had you on Liz Live for a while. I've been like really in the thick of doing a lot of mental health stuff, not so much politically related sometimes. But I've kind of switched gears a little bit, but I always love to talk politics. And, you know, it's so much fun. And I love to you know, be a little opinionated sometimes. It feels good. You know?
Everybody needs to be able to speak their mind sometimes.
Yes.
So.
Very important. Very important. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. And yes, we will keep in touch and tell everybody how to find what you do, not only on your therapy stuff, but also the tips and everything that you give when it comes to your whole channels and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So on YouTube, it's just youtube.com/TheElizabeth126. That's my birthday, 12/6. So The Elizabeth 126 on YouTube. My business is called Actuation Counseling. So my website is actuation-counseling.com. But the easiest way to find me is really social media because I'm all over the place. So if you type my name into Google, you type my name into Facebook, everything will come up. You know, my YouTube channel, Actuation Counseling, everything. So I would say just Google my name and you'll get there, you know? And I can be reached, you know, my phone number is available. I can be reached by email. The best way to probably reach me is to call or text me. Just the nature of what I do. I'm in session a lot of the day, so I'm not great at, you know, getting to emails every day. So I always ask people, you know, phone call or text and give me like 24 hours. But yeah, if anyone needs help, and I do, Liz Live is live on Instagram and Facebook Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock and Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. So tomorrow morning, we will have a live show where people can interact and ask questions, et cetera, et cetera. And there's just so many videos all over my social media, all having to do with various types of mental health issues. Like you name it, we've got it. We've got politics covered, relationships, addiction, I mean, you name it, we cover it all.
That's awesome. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure I put all that down in the description too, so people can just check that out. But yeah, thank you for coming on the show one more time, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you.
Let's do it. And thank you for having me, and best of luck on your continued success.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay. See you later, Alan. Bye-bye.
Bye. And there you have it. That was Liz. Awesome person to talk to. Love it every time. Just so easy to talk to and so intelligent and smart and has a lot of insight into what's going on. If you got any value out of this show, make sure you subscribe, like, click the bell. If you are listening to the podcast, make sure that if you're on iTunes, you give us a rate and a review. And if you're on Spotify, share it, download it, share it with your friends. Listen to it over and over again in case you miss anything. Other than that, we will be back next Friday with another live show. And until then, stay proud and stay a patriot.
News, current events, politics, and everything in between. This is your #1 source for finding out the truth. Never censored, never apologetic, and always patriotic. You're tuned in to the Patriot Perspective with the people's proud patriot, Alan Lee.